can always get inspired by this person. And so Lincoln's legacy now belongs to the ages. Now, there's many flags in here. The four on the left are from Lincoln's ancestors who settled in the states of Massachusetts, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. But originally these people were from England. Abraham was a seventh generation descendant of his relative in England. We got the nation's flag, and then Lincoln's three home states. He was born in Kentucky, spent some of his boyhood in Indiana, and then moved to Illinois by the time he was a young man. Also over here we've got a presidential flag, and it's got our nation's seal on it and a gold and silver fringe. These can only be given by a U.S. president, and this one was gifted by President Reagan when he visited in the 1980s. Now there's been 18 presidents to visit. The last 5 were John F. Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, and George Bush Sr. back in 1987. So we have some pretty important people in these walls. Behind you is the wall crypt for the family members. So they are actually located behind where you see their names in the wall. They basically slid the coffins into spaces, and it's all been sealed up with lots of brick and concrete, and then they have marble in the front. But his wife and 3 of their sons are here. Now, these are the 3 sons that died very young of infectious diseases. Edward was only about 4 when he died of tuberculosis. William died of typhoid fever in the White House at the age of 11. A few years later, Abraham was killed, and then Tad passed away in 1871 of pleurisy, which is a lung infection. He had been studying out in Europe, he got very sick on the boat ride back home, ended up dying in Chicago. He was only 18 years old. I'll take your questions in a minute. Mary Todd lived to be 63 years old. She lived in Chicago and also had spent some time in Europe before that, but moved back here to Springfield to live with her sister. And at a certain point, she suffered a stroke and died the next day. She was 63. Now, Robert Lincoln lived to be 82 years old. There is a plaque for him on the way out, even though he's not actually buried here. But he had been a lawyer, was a captain in the Civil War, was our nation's Secretary of War under 2 different presidents, and our ambassador to Britain, and also an executive for 2 different companies, the Pullman Railcar Company and Commonwealth Edison. Now, I'd like to talk about that for a second. The Pullman Railcar Company, they had conditions for the workers that were so bad that they ended up rising up in a protest. And there was a clash with the police, and many people were killed at these events. This was just right up by Chicago. And, but it was the reason that they changed lots of labor laws to protect workers, and one of the reasons that we observe Labor Day today. But George Pullman was hated so much by his employees that he had plans to be buried 10 feet deep and surrounded with concrete and steel. And Robert took that same idea and requested that they bury his father in the same way, just so nobody would disturb the remains ever again. But at his wife's request, Robert was buried down in Arlington, Virginia because of his military service. And she wanted to see all of his life's work recognized and not be overshadowed by his father. But if we think about why we're here, it's to honor President Lincoln's life. And I like to just remember his wisdom and perseverance. He was a very wise, self-educated person, master of the English language, and a great writer, speaker, and debater. Just wanted to share that wisdom as much as he could. And had lots of perseverance, too. This is a person that had lots of struggles in his life. He came from poverty and was able to rise up to be the president. And along the way, witnessed lots of death, lost his mother and his sister when he was young, and had many struggles as a politician. People were making fun of him in the newspapers and saying that he would never make it, and publishing these nasty cartoons about him. And but he persevered and became one of our most important leaders that we've ever known. I think if you were here today, it'd say work very hard, never give up on your goals, and number 2 would be cherish your loved ones, because life is short and you never know when people will be taken from us. But altogether, especially today, this person is very relevant. There's still issues of class and race going on, and still lots of work to be done. So if you can take anything from your visit today, just remember that hard work can definitely accomplish great things, and you can definitely make a difference in the world and change it for the better. But that's about it for the tour. I can take some questions. I did see some hands up a minute ago. Do you guys still have any questions? It seems like I covered everything. If you guys have any questions, I'll be up front in a moment. But feel free to take pictures while you're back here and take your time. There's some great speeches on the walls. There's this farewell address from Springfield before you came in the room. Also on your way out, there's the Gettysburg Address, probably his most famous speech. And then the last one you'll see is an excerpt from his second inaugural address, which is really poetic and kind of deep. If you take a minute to read that, at least get a picture of it if you don't have time to go over that. But, appreciate you guys coming today. And whenever you're ready, you can head on up the hallways, and I'll see you guys up front if you have any questions. But thanks again for coming out.